Still waiting on the circle of death.
Hello, welcome to Episode 7. Today we are going to be reading the Bible.
The Bible.
Then Ben-Hur.
The Book of Judges.
Ben-Hur.
And we're on book 2 of Ben-Hur. And my screen is frozen, so I hope that everybody can see what we're doing. It skipped about 20 seconds, but now it's back. So. All right, so yeah, we are doing the synopsis. So we've got the Book of Judges. We are on the 3rd chapter of the story of Gideon. Thank you, one person who has joined us. This is Judges chapter 7. And let me go ahead and get started. This is the English Standard Version of the Bible. Hi, Mom! Wait a second. Did I read this yesterday? Yep, I read chapter 7 yesterday. So this is chapter 8. Sorry, I didn't change my ribbon. See my little ribbon? All right, didn't change my ribbon. But Gideon defeated Midian, and now we're on chapter 8. Then the men of Ephraim said to him, "What is this that you have done to us, not to call us when you went to fight against Midian?" And they accused him fiercely, and he said to them, "What have I done now in comparison with you? Is not a gleaning of the grapes of Ephraim better than the grapes harvest of Abiezer? God has given into your hands the princes of Midian, Oreb and Zeeb. What have I been able to do in comparison with you?" Then their anger against him subsided when he said this. And Gideon came to the Jordan and crossed over, he and the 300 men who were with him, exhausted yet pursuing. So he said to the men of Succoth, "Please give loaves of bread to the people who follow me, for they are exhausted, and I am pursuing after Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian." And the officials of Succoth said, "Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna already in your hand, that we should give bread to your army?" So Gideon said, "Well then, when the Lord has given Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, I will flail your flesh with thorns of the wilderness and with briars." Sounds like a nice guy. And from there he went up to Penuel and spoke to them in the same way. And the men of Penuel answered him as the men of Succoth had answered. And he said to the men of Penuel, "When I come again in peace, I will break down this tower." Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor with their army, about 15,000 men, all who were left of all the army of the people of the east. For there had fallen 120,000 men who drew the sword. And Gideon went up by the way of the tent dwellers east of Nobah and Jogbehah, and attacked the army, for the army felt secure. And Zebah and Zalmunna fled, and he pursued them and captured the 2 kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna, and he threw all the army into panic. Then Gideon, the son of Joash, returned from the battle by the ascent of Heres, and he captured a young man of Succoth and questioned him, and he wrote down for him the officials and the elders of Succoth, 77 men. And he came to the men of Succoth and said, "Behold, Zebah and Zalmunna, about whom you taunted me, saying, 'Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna already in your hand, that we should give you bread to your men who are exhausted?' And he took the elders of the city, and he took thorns of the wilderness and briars, and with them taught the men of Succoth a lesson. And he broke down the tower of Penuel and killed the men of the city. Then he said to Zebah and Zalmunna, 'Where are the men whom you killed at Tabor?' They answered, 'As you are, so were they. Every one of them resembled the son of a king.' And he said, 'They were my brothers, the sons of my mother. As the Lord lives, if you had saved them alive, I would not kill you.' So he said to Jether, his firstborn, rise and kill them. But the young man did not draw his sword, for he was afraid, because he was still a young man. Then Zebah and Zalmunna said, Rise yourself and fall upon us, for as the man is, so is his strength. And Gideon rose and killed Zebah and Zalmunna, and he took the crescent ornaments that were on the necks of their camels. Then the men of Israel said to Gideon, Rule over us, you and your son and your grandson also, for you have saved us from the hand of Midian. Gideon said to them, I will not rule over you, and my son will not rule over you. The Lord will rule over you. And Gideon said to them, Let me make a request of you. Every one of you give me the earrings from his spoil. For they had golden earrings, because they were Ishmaelites. And they answered, We will willingly give them. And they spread a cloak, and every man threw in it the earrings of his spoil. And the weight of the golden earrings that he requested was 1,700 shekels of gold, besides the crescent ornaments and the pendants and the purple garments worn by the kings of Midian, and besides the collars that were around the necks of the camels. And Gideon made an ephod of it and put it in the city in Ophrah. And all Israel whored after it there, and it became a snare to Gideon and to his family. So Midian was subdued before the people of Israel, and they raised their heads no more. And the land had rest 40 years in the days of Gideon. Jerubbaal, the son of Joash, went and lived in his own house. Now Gideon had 70 sons, his own offspring, for he had many wives. And his concubine, who was in Shechem, also bore him a son, and he called his name Abimelech. And Gideon, the son of Joash, died in a good old age, and was buried in the tomb of Joash his father at Ophrah of the Abiezrites. As soon as Gideon died, the people of Israel turned again and whored after the Baals and made Baal-berith their god. And the people of Israel did not remember the Lord their God, who had delivered them from the hand of all their enemies on every side. And they did not show steadfast love to the family of Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, in return for all the good that he had done to Israel. And tomorrow we will read chapter 9, which is a nice long chapter, so it should be really good. And already here today for the synopsis is Miss Kimberly. Here she is.
I would like to say something about the chapter that we just read. How are they so dumb? It's infuriating me. They're like all on the good track, and then they're all,
Well,
they're all.
something that was very interesting because Gideon, they asked Gideon to be the king. Well, they said, rule over us. But he said, I will not rule over you, and my son will not rule over you. He's saying, the house of Gideon will not be a dynasty in Israel. That's what he said right there. But the Lord will rule over you. But did he rule over him? Not so much. So we'll find out what happens next tomorrow.
Yeah,
Here's Kimberly.
But they're like believing in God and everything, and then the minute he's like gone, whether it's dead or in some cases just gone on a trip, they're like all back to idols in like 2 days.
Right. So the book of Judges is a cyclical book. So history is a progression that goes from creation to Revelation, or from creation to heaven, or however you think of it. And Judges, instead of it moving like this, it moves like this in circles. And because we're going to read at the end of Judges, we're going to read the book of Ruth, which is 4 chapters, but it shows the progression from the beginning when Ruth and Ruth's husband and Naomi's husband and her son died, and so it begins in when they're in a bad place, and then it ends when Ruth eventually gets married to Boaz. And so that's progressive history. The book of Judges is a
So what happened in the last chapter was 3 wise men talked to Herod, and then they went to Bethlehem.
Herod was a really cool dude.
No, he was like, you know what? I'm gonna get them to find out where this supposed king of the Jews is, and then I'm gonna go kill him. Well, he didn't exactly say that, but I know what's gonna happen.
Herod thought, oh, hey, if the king of the Jews is alive, then that's pretty important, and I need to meet him.
No, he thought if there's a person who's gonna be king of the Jews, then he's gonna overthrow me. So I need to kill him.
Overthrow him while he's still vulnerable.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
That's basically his mindset.
All right.
So that's pretty much what happened.
And the Herod kings were actually Greek kings, not Jewish. They were probably more Greek than Jewish. I see you. You're welcome. I have been out shopping for 6 hours. Okay. So that's all the comments that we have as of right now. I don't. I have. Okay. And JJ is in the room with Ed. And we are going to begin book 2. Here it is right there, book 2 of Ben-Hur. Let me read the little caption that it's got. This is from Lord Byron. I don't know who that is, but here we go. There is a fire and motion of the soul which will not dwell in its own narrow being, but aspire beyond the fitting medium of desire, and but once kindled, quenchless evermore, preys upon high adventure, nor can tire, but aught of rest. So that is from Lord Byron. And now we will begin chapter 1, Jerusalem under the Romans. Oh, hey, JJ, what you doing? I hear some weird noises in there. I'm just wondering. Oh, okay.
I got it for my 9th birthday.
Awesome. Okay, so this is Jerusalem under the Romans, chapter 1. It is necessary now to carry the reader forward 21 years. So Jesus was born, and now it's 21 years later. So Jesus is, let's do the math. Oh, Kimberly got it. He's 21 years old at this point. All right, to the beginning of the administration of Valerius Gratus, the 4th imperial governor of Judea, a period which will be remembered as rent by political agitations in Jerusalem, if indeed it be not the precise time of the opening of the final quarrel between the Jew and the Roman. In the interval, Judea had been subjected to changes affecting her in many ways, but in nothing so much as her political status. Herod the Great died within 1 year after the birth of the child, died so miserably that the Christian world had reason to believe him overtaken by the divine wrath. Like all great rulers who spend their lives in perfecting the power they create, he dreamed of transmitting his throne and crown, of being the founder of a dynasty. With that intent, he left a will dividing his territories between his 3 sons, Antipas, Philip, and Archelaus, of whom the last was appointed to succeed to the title. The testament was necessarily referred to Augustus, the emperor, who ratified all its provisions with one exception. He withheld from Archelaus the title of king until he proved his capacity and loyalty. In lieu thereof, he created him ethnarch, and as such permitted him to govern 9 years, when for misconduct and inability to stay the turbulent elements that grew and strengthened around him, he was sent into Gaul as an exile. Gaul is France. today. Caesar was not content with deposing Archelaus. He struck the people of Jerusalem in a manner that touched their pride and keenly wounded the sensibilities of the haughty habitues of the temple. He reduced Judea to a Roman province and annexed it to the prefecture of Syria. So instead of a king ruling royally from the palace left by Herod on Mount Zion, the city fell into the hands of an officer of the second grade, an appointee called procurator, who communicated with the court in Rome through the legate of Syria residing in Antioch. To make the hurt more painful, the procurator was not permitted to establish himself in Jerusalem. Caesarea was his seat of government. Most humiliating, however, most exasperating, most studied, Samaria. Of all the world, the most despised, Samaria was joined to Judea as a part of the same province. What ineffable misery the bigoted separatists or Pharisees endured at finding themselves elbowed and laughed at in a procurator's presence in Caesarea by the devotees of Gerizim. Sorry, I said that. I switched the R and the Z. Gerizim, because that will matter to people that are listening. In this reign of sorrows, one consolation, and one only, remained to the fallen people. The high priest occupied the Herodian palace in the marketplace, and kept the semblance of a court there. What his authority really was is a matter of easy estimate. Judgment of life and death was retained by the procurator. Justice was administered in the name and according to the decretals of Rome. Yet more significant, the royal house was jointly occupied by the imperial exciseman and all his corps of assistants, registrars, collectors, publicans, informers, and spies. Still, to the dreamers of liberty to come, there was a certain satisfaction in the fact that the chief ruler in the palace was a Jew. His mere presence there, day after day, kept them reminded of the covenants and promises of the prophets and the ages when Jehovah governed the tribes through the sons of Aaron. It was to them a certain sign that he had not abandoned them, so their hopes lived and served their patience and helped them wait grimly the son of Judah who was to rule Israel. Judah had been a Roman province 80 years and more, ample time for the Caesars to study the idiosyncrasies of the people, time enough at least to learn that the Jew, with all his pride, could be quietly governed if his religion were respected. Proceeding upon that policy, the predecessors of Gratus had carefully abstained from interfering with any of the sacred observances of their subjects, but he chose a different course. Almost his first official act was to expel Hannas from the high priesthood and give the place to Ishmael, son of Phabus. Whether the act was directed by Augustus or proceeded from Gratus himself, its impolicy became speedily apparent. The reader shall be spared a chapter on Jewish politics. A few words upon the subject, however, are essential to such as may follow the succeeding narration critically. At this time, leaving Origen out of view, there were in Judea the party of the nobles and the separatists or popular party. Upon Herod's death, the two united against Archelaus. From temple to palace, from Jerusalem to Rome, they fought him, sometimes with intrigue, sometimes with the actual weapons of war. More than once the holy cloisters on Moriah resounded with the cries of fighting men. Finally, they drove him into exile. Meantime, throughout this struggle, the allies had their diverse objects in view. The nobles hated Joazar, the high priest. The separatists, on the other hand, were his zealous adherents. When Herod's settlement went down with Archelaus, okay, mom's home. When When Herod's settlement went down with Archelaus, Joazar shared the fall. Hannes, the son of Seth, was selected by the nobles to fill the great office. Thereupon the allies divided. The induction of the Sethian brought them face to face in fierce hostility. In the course of the struggle with the unfortunate ethnarch, the nobles had found it expedient to attach themselves to Rome, discerning that when the existing settlement was broken up, some form of government must needs follow. They suggested the conversion of Judea into a province. The fact furnished the separatists an additional cause for attack, and when Samaria was made part of the province, the nobles sank into a minority with nothing to support them but the imperial court and the prestige of their rank and wealth. Yet for 15 years, down indeed to the coming of Valerius Gratus, they managed to maintain themselves in both palace and temple. Hannes, the idol of his party, had used his power faithfully in the interest of his imperial patron. A Roman garrison held the tower of Antonio. A Roman guard kept the gates of the palace. A Roman judge dispensed justice, civil and criminal. A Roman system of taxation, mercilessly executed, crushed both city and country, daily, hourly, and in 1,000 ways the people were bruised and galled and taught the difference between a life of independence and a life of subjection. Yet Hannes kept them in comparative quiet. Rome had no truer friend, and he made his loss instantly felt. Delivering his vestments to Ishmael, the new appointee, he walked from the courts of the temple into the councils of the separatists and became the head of a new combination, Bethusian and Sethian. Gratus, the procurator, left thus without a party, saw the fires which in the 15 years had sunk into sodden smoke begin to glow with returning life. A month after Ishmael took the office, the Roman found it necessary to visit him in Jerusalem, when from the walls, hooting and hissing him, the Jews beheld his guard enter the north gate of the city and march to the tower of Antonia. They understood the real purpose of the visit. A full cohort of legionaries was added to the former garrison, and the keys of their yoke could now be tightened with impunity. If the procurator deemed it important to make an example, alas for the first offender. So that's a lot of words, but basically, the Jews are under a tight influence of Rome. They've been combined with Samaria, which is like a slap in the face to them, and they are under this procurator named Gratus, who, if I recall correctly, was the predecessor to another more I don't want to say popular, another more commonly known procurator who we'll learn about later in the story. All right, so chapter 2, Ben-Hur and Messala. With the foregoing explanation in mind, the reader is invited to look into one of the gardens of the palace on Mount Zion. The time was noonday in the middle of July, when the heat of summer was at its highest. The garden was bounded on every side by buildings which in places arose 2 stories, with verandas shading the doors and windows of the lower story, while retreating galleries guarded by strong balustrades adorned and protected the upper. Here and there, moreover, the structures fell into what appeared low colonnades, permitting the passage of such winds as chanced to blow, and allowing other parts of the house to be seen, the better to realize its magnitude and beauty. The arrangement of the ground was equally pleasant to the eye. There were walks and patches of grass and shrubbery, and a few large trees, rare specimens of the palm grouped with the carob, apricot, and walnut. In all directions the grade sloped gently from the center, where there was a reservoir or deep marble basin, broken at intervals by little gates which, when raised, emptied the water into sluices bordering the walks, a cunning device for the rescue of the place from the aridity too prevalent elsewhere in the region. Not far from the fountain, where there was a small pool of clear water nourishing a clump of cane and oleander, such as grow on the Jordan and down by the Dead Sea, between the clump and the pool, unmindful of the sun shining full upon them in the breathless air, two boys, one about 19, the other 17, sat engaged in earnest conversation. They were both handsome, and at first glance would have been pronounced brothers. Both had hair and eyes black, their faces were deeply browned, and sitting they seemed of a size proper for their defence in the ages. The elder was bareheaded, a loose tunic dropping to the knees was his attire complete, except sandals and a light blue mantle spread under him on the seat. The costume left his arms and legs exposed, and they were brown as the face. Nevertheless, a certain grace of manner, refinement of features, and culture of voice decided his rank. The tunic, of softest woolen, gray tinted at the neck, sleeves, and edge of the skirt, bordered with red, and bound to the waist by the tasseled silken cord, certified him the Roman he was. And if in speech he now and then gazed haughtily at his companion, and addressed him as an inferior, he might almost be excused, for he was of a family noble even in Rome, a circumstance which in that age justified any assumption. In the terrible wars between the first Caesar and the great enemies, a Messala had been the friend of Brutus. After Philippi, without sacrifice of his honor, he and the conqueror became reconciled. Yet later, when Octavius disputed for the empire, Messala supported him. Octavius, as the Emperor Augustus, remembered the service and showered the family with honors. Among other things, Judea being reduced to a province, he sent the son of his old client, or retainer, to Jerusalem, charged with the receipt and management of the taxes levied in that region. And in that service the son had since remained, sharing the palace with the high priest. The youth just described was his son, whose habit it was to carry about with him all too faithfully a remembrance of the relation between his grandfather and the great Romans of his day. The associate of the Messala was slighter in form, and his garments were of fine white linen and of the prevalent style in Jerusalem. A cloth covered his head, held by a yellow cord, and arranged so as to fall away from the forehead down low over the back of the neck. An observer skilled in the distinctions of race, and studying his features more than his costume, would have soon discovered him to be of Jewish descent. The forehead of the Roman was high and narrow, his nose sharp and aquiline, while his lips were thin and straight, and his eyes cold and close under the brows. The front of the Israelite, on the other hand, was low and broad, his nose long with expanded nostrils, his upper lip slightly shading the lower one, short and curving to the dimpled corners like a Cupid's bow, points which, in connection with the round chin, full eyes, and oval cheeks reddened with a wine-like glow, gave his face the softness, strength, and beauty peculiar to his race. The comeliness of the Roman was severe and chaste, that of the Jew rich and voluptuous. Did you not say the new procurator is to arrive tomorrow? The question proceeded from the younger of the friends, and was couched in Greek, at the time, singularly enough, the language everywhere prevalent in the politer circles of Judea. Having passed from the palace into the camp and college, thence nobody knew exactly when or how into the temple itself, and for that matter, into precincts of the temple far beyond the gates and cloisters, precincts of a sanctity intolerable for a Gentile. Yes, tomorrow, Messala answered. Who told you? I heard Ishmael, the new governor in the palace, you call him high priest, tell my father so last night. The news has been more credible, I grant you, coming from an Egyptian who is of a race that has forgotten what truth is, or even from an Edomian whose people never knew what truth was. But to make quite certain, excuse me, To make quite certain, I saw a centurion from the tower this morning, and he told me preparations were going on for the reception, that the armorers were furbishing the helmets and shields, and regilding the eagles and globes, and that apartments long unused were being cleansed and aired as if for an addition to the garrison, the bodyguard, probably, of the great man. A perfect idea of the manner in which the answer was given cannot be conveyed, as if as its fine points continually escape the powers behind the pen. The reader's fancy must come to his aid, and for that he must be reminded that reverence as a quality of the Roman mind was fast breaking down, or rather it was becoming unfashionable. The old religion had nearly ceased to be a faith. At most it was a mere habit of thought and expression, cherished principally by the priests who found service in the temple profitable, and the poets who, in the turn of their verses, could not dispense with the familiar deities. There are singers of this age who are similarly given. As philosophy was taken the place of religion, satire was fast substituting reverence, insomuch that in Latin opinion it was to every speech, even to the little diatribes of conversation, as salt to viands and aroma to wine. The young Messala, educated in Rome but lately returned, had caught the habit and manner, the scarce perceptible movement of the outer corner of the lower eyelid, the decided curl of the corresponding nostril, and the languid utterance affected as the best vehicle to convey the idea of general indifference, but more particularly because of the opportunities it afforded for certain rhetorical pauses thought to be of prime importance to enable the listener to take the happy conceit or receive the virus of the stinging epigram. Such a stop occurred in the answer just given, at the end of the allusion to the Egyptian and the Edomian. The color of the Jewish lad's cheek deepened, for he remained silent, looking absently into the depths of the pool. So that paragraph basically just said, hey, listen, the Roman gods, nobody actually believes in them, but the priests get rich when they get to be in the temple, and the poets get to repeat the verses. And when Messala there made his little question to Ben-Hur. Well, we don't know that it's Ben-Hur, but it is. When he made his question to the Jewish boy, he was, thinking about this, and he made a rhetorical pause in order to bring that to everybody's attention that was in the room, which was actually just the two boys. Anyway, a lot of description. All right, let's keep going. Our farewell took place in this garden. The peace of the Lord go with you. Your last words. The gods keep you, I said. Do you remember? How many years have passed since then? 5, answered the Jew, gazing into the water. Well, you have reason to be thankful to, whom shall I say? The gods? No matter. You have grown handsome. The Greeks would call you beautiful. Happy achievement of the years. If Jupiter would say, stay content with one Ganymede, what a cupbearer you would make for the emperor. Tell me, my Judah, how the coming of the procurator is of such interest to you. Judah bent his large eyes upon the questioner. Oh, it's not Ben-Hur, it's Judah. Judah bent his large eyes upon the questioner. The gaze was grave and thoughtful, and caught the Romans and held it while he replied, yes, 5 years. I remember the parting. You went to Rome. I saw you start and cried, for I loved you. The years are gone, and you have come back to me accomplished and princely. I do not jest. And yet, I wish you were the Messala you went away. The fine nostril of the satirist stirred, and he put on a longer drawl as he said, "No, no, not a Ganymede, an oracle, my Judah, a few lessons from my teacher of rhetoric, hard by the forum. I will give you a letter to him when you become wise enough to accept the suggestion which I am reminded to make you. A little practice of the art of mystery, and Delphi will receive you as Apollo himself. At the sound of your solemn voice, the Pythia will come down to you with her crown. Seriously, O my friend, in what am I not the Messala I went away? I once heard the greatest logician in the world. His subject was disputation. One saying I remember, understand your antagonist before you, answer him. Let me understand you. Delphi, by the way, is an oracle. So he's saying you could go to the oracle and ask Pythia, et cetera, something, something. The lad reddened under the cynical look to which he was subjected, yet he replied firmly, "You have availed yourself, I see, of your opportunities from your teachers. You have brought away much knowledge and many graces. You talk with the ease of a master, yet your speech carries a sting. My Messala, when he went away, had no poison in his nature. Not for the world would he have hurt the feelings of a friend." The Roman smiled as if complimented, and raised his patrician head a toss higher. "O my solemn Judah, we are not at Dodona or Pytho. Drop the oracular and be plain. Wherein have I hurt you?" The other drew a long breath, and said, pulling at the cord about his waist, "In the 5 years I too have learned somewhat. Hillel may not be the equal of the logician you heard, and Simeon and Shemael are no doubt inferior to your master hard by the forum. Their learning goes not out into forbidden paths. Those who sit at their feet arise enriched simply with the knowledge of God, the law, and Israel, and the effect is love and reverence for everything that pertains to them. Attendance to the great college and study of what I heard there have taught me that Judea is not as she used to be. I know the space that lies between the independent kingdom and the petty province Judea is. I were I were meaner, viler than a Samaritan not to resent the degradation of my country. Ishmael is not lawfully high priest, and he cannot be while the noble Hannas lives. Yet he is a Levite, one of the devoted, who for thousands of years have acceptably served the Lord God of our faith and worship. His Messala broke in upon him with a biting laugh. "Oh, I understand you now. Ishmael, you say, is an usurper, yet to believe an Idumean sooner than Ishmael is to sting like an adder, a snake. By the drunken son of Semele, what it is to be a Jew. All all men and things, even heaven and earth, change, but a Jew never. To him there is no backward, no forward. He is what his ancestor was in the beginning. In this sand I draw you a circle. There. Now tell me what more a Jew's life is. Round and round. Abraham here, Isaac and Jacob yonder, God in the middle, and the circle by the master of all thunders. The circle is too large. I draw it again." He stopped, put his thumb upon the ground, and swept the fingers about it. "See, the thumb spot is the temple. The finger lines Judea. Outside the little space, is there nothing of value? The arts? Herod was a builder, therefore he is accursed. Painting, sculpture, to look upon them is sin. Poetry you make fast to your altars, except in the synagogue. Who of you attempts eloquence? In war, all you conquer in the 6 days, you lose on the seventh. Such your life and limit. Who shall say, who shall say no if I laugh at you? Satisfied with the worship of such a people, what is your God to our Roman Jove, who lends us his eagles that we may compass the universe with our arms? Hillel, Simeon, Shammai, Abtalion, what are they to the masters who teach that everything is worth knowing that can be known? So he's making fun of the Jewish man's religion. Mostly because he doesn't really believe in his religion, and he thinks that all religions are kind of fable. And so he's like, huh, you actually believe all that stuff? That's basically what he said. The Jew arose, his face much flushed. No, no, keep your place, my Judah, keep your place, Messala cried, extending his hand. You mock me. Listen, a little further, directly. The Roman smiled derisively. Directly, Jupiter and his whole family, Greek and Latin, will come to me, as is their habit, and make an end of serious speech. I am mindful of your goodness in walking from the old house of your fathers to welcome me back and renew the love of our childhood, if we can. Go, said my master in his last lecture, go and make your lives great. Remember, Mars reigns and Eros has found his eyes. He meant love is nothing, war is everything. It is so in Rome. Marriage is the first step to divorce. Virtue is a tradesman's jewel. Cleopatra, dying, bequeathed her arms and is avenged. She has a successor in every Roman's house. The world is going the same way. So, as to our future, down Eros, up Mars. I am to be a soldier, and you, O my Judah, I pity you. What can you be? The Jew moved nearer the pool. Messala's drawl deepened. Yes, I pity you, my fine Judah. From the college to the synagogue, then to the temple, then, oh, a crowning glory, the seat in the Sanhedrin. A life without opportunities. The gods help you, but I. Judah looked at him in time to see the flush of pride that kindled in his haughty face as he went on. But the world is not all conquered. The sea has islands unseen. In the north there are nations yet unvisited. The glory of completing Alexander's march to the far east remains to someone. See what possibilities lie before a Roman. Next instant, he resumed his drawl. A campaign into Africa, another after the Scythian, then a legion. Most careers end there, but not mine. I, by Jupiter, what a conception! I will give up my legion for a prefecture. Think of life in Rome with money, money, wine, women, games, poets at the banquet, intrigues in the court, dice all the year round. Such a rounding of life may be a fat prefecture, and it is mine. Oh, my Judah, here is Syria. Judah is rich. Antioch, a capital for the gods. I will succeed Cyrenius, and you shall share my fortune. The sophists and rhetoricians who thronged the public resorts of Rome, almost monopolizing the business of teaching her patrician youth, might have approved these sayings of Messala, for they were all in the popular vein. To the young Jew, however, they were new, and unlike the solemn style of discourse and conversation to which he was accustomed. He belonged, moreover, to a race whose laws, modes, and habits of thought forbade satire and humor. Very naturally, therefore, he listened to his friend with varying feelings. One moment indignant, then uncertain how to take him. The superior airs assumed had been offensive to him in the beginning. Soon they became irritating, and at last an acute smart. Anger lies close to his point in all of us, close by this point in all of us, and that the satirist evoked in another way. To the Jew of the Herodian period, patriotism was a savage passion, passion scarcely hidden under his common humor and so related to his history, religion, and God that it responded instantly to derision of them. Wherefore it is not speaking too strongly to say that Messala's progress down to the last pause was exquisite torture to his hearer. At that point, the latter said with a forced smile, "There are a few, I have heard, who can afford to make a jest of their future. You convince me, O my Messala, that I am not one of them." The Roman studied him, then replied, "Why not the truth in jest as well as a parable? The great Fulvia went fishing the other day. She caught more than all the company besides. They said it was because the barb of her hook was covered with gold." "Then you were not merely jesting?" "My Judah, I see I did not offer you enough," the Roman answered quickly, his eyes sparkling. "When I am prefect, with Judea to enrich me, I will make you high priest." The Jew turned off angrily. "Do not leave me," said Messala. The other stopped, irresolute. "Gods, Judah, how hot the sun shines!" cried the patrician, observing his perplexity. "Let us seek a shade." Judah answered coldly, "We had better part. I wish I had not come. I sought a friend and find a Roman," said Messala quickly. The hands of the Jew clenched, but controlling himself again, he started off. Messala arose and, taking the mantle from the bench, flung it over his shoulder and followed after. When he gained his side, he put his hand upon his shoulder and walked with him. "This is the way, my hand thus, we used to walk when we were children. Let us keep it as far as the gate." Apparently, Messala was trying to be serious and kind, though he could not rid his countenance of the habitual satirical expression. Judah permitted the familiarity. "You are a boy. I am a man. Let me talk like one." The complacency of the Roman was superb. Mentor lecturing, the young Telemachus could not have been more at ease. "Do you believe in the Parse? Oh, I forgot, you're a Sadducee. The Essenes are your sensible people. They believe in the sisters, so do I. How everlastingly the three are in the way of our doing what we please. In the way of our doing what we please. I sit down scheming. I run paths here and there. Perpole, just when I am reaching to take the world in hand, I hear behind me the grinding of scissors. I look, and there she is, the accursed Atropos. But, my Judah, why did you get mad when I spoke of succeeding old Cyrenius? You thought I meant to enrich myself plundering your Judea. Suppose so. It is what some Roman will do. Why not I?" Judah shortened his step. "There have been strangers in mastery of Judea before the Roman," he said with lifted hand. "Where are they, Messala? She has outlived them all. What has been will be again." Messala put on his drawl. "The Parse have believers outside the Essenes. Welcome, Judea, welcome to the faith." "No, Messala, count me not with them. My faith rests on the rock, which was the foundation of the faith of my fathers back further than Abraham, on the covenants of the Lord God of Israel." "Too much passion, my Judah. How my master would have been shocked had I been guilty of so much heat in his presence. There were other things I had to tell you, but I fear to now." When they had gone a few yards, the Roman spoke again. "I think you can hear me now, especially as what I have to say concerns yourself. I would serve you, O handsome as Ganymede. I would serve you with real goodwill. I love you all I can. I told you I meant to be a soldier. Why not you also? Why not you step out of the narrow circle which, as I have shown, is all of noble life your laws and customs allow?" Judah made no reply. Who are the wise men of our day? Messala continued. Not they who exhaust their years quarreling about dead things, about Baals, Joves, and Jehovahs, about philosophies and religions. Give me one great name, O Judah. I care not where you go to find it, to Rome, Egypt, the East, or here in Jerusalem. Pluto take me, if it belong not to a man who wrought his fame out of the material furnished him by the present, holding nothing sacred that did not contribute to the end, scorning nothing that did. How was it with Herod? How with the Maccabees? How with the first and second Caesars? Imitate them. Begin now. At hand I see Rome as ready to help you as she was the Idumean Antipater. So he's saying that all there is the material world, and show me anybody who can prove differently. That's basically what he said. The Jewish lad trembled with rage, and as a garden gate was close by, he quickened his steps, eager to escape. Oh, Rome, Rome, he muttered. Be wise, continued Messala. Give up the follies of Moses and the traditions. See the situation as it is. Dare look Parse in the face, and they will tell you Rome is the world. Ask them of Judea, and they will answer, she is what Rome wills. They were now at the gate. Judah stopped and took the hand gently from his shoulder and confronted Messala, tears trembling in his eyes. I understand you because you are a Roman. You cannot understand me. I am an Israelite. You have given me suffering today by convincing me that we can never be the friends we have been. Never. Here we part. The peace of the God of my fathers abide with you. Messala offered him his hand. The Jew walked on through the gateway. When he was gone, the Roman was silent a while. Then he too passed through, saying to himself with a toss of the head, be it so. Eros is dead. Mars reigns. That's the end of chapter 2. Chapter 3 is called A Judean Home. The first word is from. And we will not have time to read that today, but we will read that tomorrow. So I hope you're enjoying the story of Ben-Hur. We are now 2 chapters into book 2, and we will begin chapter 3 tomorrow. I hope everybody's having a great day. I hope everyone comes and sees us for tomorrow's episode. And I wish you all good evening and adieu. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and end the video since the people watching right now are not actually watching the live stream, which is fine. I do appreciate you guys, and I will see you again tomorrow. Good night. Bye.